The Mosaic of Hope. Chapter 1. Between Canvases and Storms in Mexico City. The morning sun kissed the scaffolding that rose like metal skyscrapers around the 10-story building in vibrant Mexico City. The air, still cool from the early morning, carried the promise of a scorching day, but also the palpable tension that precedes great projects. 3 figures moved with the agility of cats among the metal structure, each with a particular universe of dreams and challenges. Sofia, a young painter with the soul of an artist, adjusted her safety harness with the precision of a surgeon. Her fingers, stained with paints from past projects, caressed the smooth surface of the scaffolding, as if they were about to transform the building itself into a giant canvas. Her eyes, shining with the intensity of 1,000 suns, reflected Mexico City that stretched out at her feet, a mosaic of colors and textures that deeply inspired her. She dreamed of painting murals that told stories, that awakened emotions, that transformed gray spaces into explosions of life and color. She imagined her works adorning emblematic buildings, becoming landmarks, places where people gathered to contemplate the beauty and reflect on the meaning of art. Miguel, a painting veteran with skin tanned by the sun and hands hardened by years of work, inspected his equipment with the meticulousness of a master craftsman. Each brush, each roller, each can of paint was carefully examined, as if his life depended on it, and in a way it did. A dedicated family man, Miguel carried the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but also the strength of 1,000 men and the hope of providing a better future for his children. He had started in this trade out of necessity, but over time he had found a certain pride in it. He knew that his work was hard, that it required physical effort and concentration, but he also knew that it was important. He, with his hands, gave new life to worn-out buildings, transformed houses into homes, contributed to beautify the city. Elena, the youngest of the group, a young woman with curious eyes and a contagious smile, watched her colleagues with a mixture of admiration and apprehension. It was her first job at height, and the cold in her stomach was inevitable. But her passion for painting and her desire to learn from the best drove her forward, with the certainty that she was in the right place, tracing the path that her heart indicated. Elena was a sponge, absorbing every advice, every technique, every trick that her companions taught her. She dreamed of one day having her own workshop, where she could experiment with different styles and materials, where she could unleash her creativity without limits. "Good morning, team," exclaimed Sofia, her vibrant voice resonating between the scaffolding. "Today we are going to transform this building into a work of art that will make history." "God willing," responded Miguel, with a serious and experienced tone of voice. "But first, let's make sure that everything is 100% safe. I don't want to take unnecessary risks. We have to go home safe and sound." Miguel was a cautious man. He didn't like shortcuts or improvisations. He knew that safety was the first thing, and he was not willing to give in on that point. Elena nodded enthusiastically, her eyes shining with emotion. "Safety is our #1 priority, you can bet. I don't want anyone to get hurt." Despite her youth and her lack of experience, Elena was a responsible and committed worker. She knew that painting at height was a dangerous job, and she was determined to follow all safety rules to the letter. As they prepared to start work, the 3 shared stories of their lives, dreams, and ambitions. Sofia spoke passionately about her desire to paint murals on iconic buildings around the world, expressing her art on a large scale and touching people's hearts with her vibrant colors and expressive shapes. She described in detail the murals she imagined, full of symbolism and meaning, capable of telling stories without the need for words. Miguel, for his part, proudly mentioned the family that waited for him at home, the loving wife and the children who inspired him to be a better man every day. He spoke of his children with infinite tenderness, of his dreams for them, of the importance of education and hard work. His family was his engine, the reason why he got up every morning and faced the challenges of everyday life. Elena, with the characteristic shyness of young people, revealed her dream of traveling the world, absorbing the culture and painting techniques of different countries, to become a complete and versatile artist. She dreamed of traveling the world with her backpack and her brushes, meeting other artists, learning from their experiences, discovering new landscapes and cultures. The work began, and with it, the challenges. The wind, which was previously a gentle breeze, now lashed the scaffolding with fury, making them sway like ships in the high seas. A miscalculation by Miguel almost resulted in the fall of a bucket of paint, which crashed on the ground with a terrifying roar, splattering paint everywhere. Elena, in a moment of distraction, stained a newly painted window, and the fear of having ruined the work paralyzed her for a few seconds. She felt the blood freeze in her veins, her heart beating strongly in her chest. However, the union and team spirit prevailed over the setbacks. Sofia, with her innate skill for painting and her ability to adapt to adverse conditions, worked with millimeter precision, ignoring the swaying of the scaffolding and the force of the wind. It seemed that the brush was an extension of her own body, moving with grace and fluidity over the wall. Miguel, with his experience and technical knowledge, found quick solutions to the problems that arose, preventing the work from being compromised. His mind was a whirlwind of ideas, looking for the best way to solve each challenge, to optimize each process. Elena, despite the initial scare, learned from her mistake and became more attentive and careful, showing her ability to learn and her willingness to grow. She understood that concentration was fundamental in this work, that any carelessness could have serious consequences. At the end of the day, the building was transformed. The vibrant colors they had applied gave life to the facade, highlighting the architectural details and transmitting a feeling of joy and renewal. The three felt proud of the work they did together, of overcoming the challenges and of the strength of their teamwork. They had shown that together they could achieve great things, that unity and collaboration were the key to success. Chapter 2: The Perfect Storm. The boardroom had become a makeshift bunker. The blinds were drawn, blocking the midday light, while the computer screens illuminated the team's tense faces. Diego Sanchez typed frantically on his laptop, running seismic simulations one after another. According to these models, Diego murmured, adjusting his glasses, the problem is even worse than we thought. It's not just the main structure, the evacuation systems are also compromised. Isabel massaged her temples, her untouched coffee already cold on the table. And we can't just reinforce what's already built. We'd need to dismantle at least 5 floors to implement a traditional solution. The door burst open, startling everyone. It was Ana Lopez, the financial director, with an expression that foreshadowed more bad news. Carlos, I've just reviewed the numbers, she said without preamble. If we stop construction now, the penalties would destroy us. The Chilean investors have a brutal compliance clause in the contract. Ricardo, who had been unusually silent, looked up from his plans. This is all my fault. I should resign and... No, Carlos interrupted firmly. That won't solve anything. We need solutions, not scapegoats. Just then, Diego stopped typing abruptly. His eyes gleamed with that spark that Carlos had learned to recognize in young innovators. What if? Diego began, turning his laptop so everyone could see. Instead of dismantling, we adapt? I've been working on a seismic damping system based on artificial intelligence. We could integrate it into the existing structure. Isabel leaned towards the screen, skeptical but intrigued. An adaptive damping system? Like the one they use in Taipei 101. Similar, but more advanced, Diego replied, his words quickening with enthusiasm. It would use real-time sensors to adjust the building's response during an earthquake. The problem is that it's never been implemented in an ongoing construction. Ana, who had been doing quick calculations on her tablet, interjected. Assuming it works, how much would it cost? Less than demolishing and rebuilding, Diego replied. But we'd need regulatory approval, and fast. Carlos stood up and began pacing the room, his mind racing. Implementation time? 3 weeks for the basic installation, Diego estimated. But we'd need at least 2 months of testing to ensure. We don't have 2 months, Ana interrupted. The client expects the first building in 6 weeks. A heavy silence fell over the room. Through the blinds, the distant sounds of the city filtered in, oblivious to the crisis unfolding in that room. There's something else, Isabel added, checking her phone. They've just reported unusual seismic activity in the Santiago region. Nothing serious yet, but... Carlos looked at his team, the regret in Ricardo's eyes, the worry on Anna's face, Isabel's determination, and the innovative gleam in Diego's gaze. Each one had something crucial to contribute, but time was slipping through their fingers. Diego, Carlos said finally, you have 24 hours to present me with a detailed implementation plan. Isabel, I need you to review every aspect of that plan. Ana, prepare 2 financial scenarios, one with Diego's solution and the other with a total shutdown. Ricardo looked up, awaiting his sentence. You know those buildings better than anyone else. I need you to work with Diego. Your mistake got us into this. Your experience will get us out. The intercom buzzed, startling them again. It was Marina. Mr. Carlos, the client from Chile, is online for the video conference. Carlos adjusted his tie and looked at his team. Nobody leaves this building until we have a concrete plan. I'm going to buy as much time as I can with the client. As he headed to his office for the video conference, Carlos couldn't help but think that the next 24 hours would determine not only the future of the company, but possibly the lives of hundreds of people. The perfect storm was forming, and they were in the eye of the hurricane. Chapter 3: The Labyrinth of Truth. Sofia, with the canvas spread out on the table, immersed herself in the labyrinth. The lines intertwined and branched out, forming a winding and enigmatic path. It was not a simple drawing. She felt it deep within her being. It was a message, a clue, an invitation to unravel a hidden secret. Miguel, with a stack of old books beside him, searched for information about labyrinths. He had read about Greek, Egyptian, Roman labyrinths, even about medieval and Renaissance labyrinths. But none resembled the drawing on the canvas. Elena, in front of the computer, looked for news about the accident. There was nothing new, only the information they already knew. But something caught her attention, a comment on an internet forum. An anonymous user claimed that the building had been built on an ancient indigenous cemetery. "Guys!" Elena exclaimed. "Look at this." Sofia and Miguel approached the computer. They read the comment carefully. Could it be true? Miguel wondered. An indigenous cemetery? "I don't know," Elena replied. "But it's worth investigating." Sofia took the canvas and observed it carefully. "I think the labyrinth has something to do with this," she said. "Maybe it's a map of the cemetery." Miguel nodded. "It makes sense. Labyrinths were often used as symbols of journey, of transition. Maybe this labyrinth represents the path to the afterlife." Sofia and Elena looked at each other. The idea that the labyrinth was a map of the cemetery filled them with excitement and fear in equal measure. They decided to investigate further. They looked for information about the history of the building, about the ancient inhabitants of the area, about the customs and beliefs of the indigenous peoples. They discovered that the building had been built on land that had belonged to a wealthy family. The family had bought the land from the indigenous people, who had agreed to sell it in exchange for a sum of money. But the sale had not been entirely legal. The indigenous people had been deceived, and had not received the agreed amount. The history of the building became increasingly dark. It seemed that the land was cursed, that the injustice committed against the indigenous people had left an indelible mark. Sofia, Miguel and Elena felt a chill. The idea that the building was built on an indigenous cemetery filled them with unease. "We have to go to the building," Sofia said. "We have to find the cemetery." Miguel and Elena nodded. They knew it was dangerous, but they could not ignore what they had discovered. They prepared their things and left the apartment. The night was dark and silent. The city seemed like a labyrinth of shadows and mysteries. Upon arriving at the building, they noticed that the police tape had disappeared. The door was open. They entered cautiously, their steps echoing in the sepulchral silence. The air was charged with tension and mystery. They walked through the dark corridors, looking for any clue, any sign of the cemetery. Suddenly, they heard a noise. A whisper, a voice that seemed to come from the walls. They stopped dead in their tracks, their hearts beating strongly. The voice became louder, clearer. It was an ancient voice, a voice that spoke in an unknown language. Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, terrified. What was happening? The voice continued to speak, telling a story, a legend. Sofia felt a chill. The voice was familiar to her, as if she had heard it before. Suddenly, she remembered. The voice was the same one she had heard in a dream she had had the night of the accident. In the dream, an indigenous old woman spoke to her in her ancestral language, telling her the story of the cemetery, the story of the injustice. Sofia felt a deep connection with the voice, with the old woman of the dream. She knew that the voice was guiding her, showing her the way. She followed the voice, delving into the labyrinth of the building. Miguel and Elena followed her closely, their hearts in their mouths. The voice led them to a dark and damp basement. There, in the center of the basement, was a door. An old door, a door of solid wood. The voice stopped. It had reached its destination. Sofia approached the door and opened it. Upon opening the door, they discovered a dark and narrow corridor. The air was cold and damp. It smelled of earth and humidity. The voice had disappeared. The silence was sepulchral. Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, their hearts beating strongly. What awaited them at the end of the corridor? They decided to move forward. Cautiously, they entered the darkness. The corridor seemed to have no end. With each step, the tension increased. Suddenly, the corridor opened into a large room, a dark and silent room. In the center of the room, there was an altar. A stone altar, covered with flowers and candles. In front of the altar, there was a figure. A female figure, dressed in indigenous clothes. The woman was turned away, looking towards the wall. Sofia, Miguel and Elena approached cautiously. Upon reaching the altar, they saw that the woman was painting on the wall. She was painting a labyrinth. A labyrinth identical to the one on the canvas. Sofia felt a chill. The woman was the old woman of the dream. The woman turned around and looked at them. Her face was covered with wrinkles, but her eyes shone with an intense light. "Welcome," the woman said in a soft voice. "I am the guardian of the cemetery." Sofia, Miguel and Elena were speechless. They did not expect to find the guardian of the cemetery. "Who are you?" Sofia asked. "I am the one who takes care of this place," the woman replied. "I am the one who keeps the secrets of the ancestors." Sofia felt a deep connection with the woman. She knew that the woman could help them solve the mystery. "What do you know about the accident?" Sofia asked. The woman sighed. "The accident was not an accident," she said. "It was revenge." Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, surprised. "Revenge? From whom?" "The revenge of the spirits," the woman replied. "The spirits of the ancestors who were deceived and stripped of their land." Sofia felt a chill. The story of the building was even darker than she imagined. "What can we do?" Sofia asked. "How can we appease the spirits?" The woman smiled. "You must find the truth," she said. "You must discover who was responsible for the injustice." Sofia, Miguel and Elena nodded. They knew that the task would not be easy, but they were determined to discover the truth. "Will you help us?" Sofia asked. The woman nodded. "I will guide you," she said. "I will show you the way." Sofia, Miguel and Elena felt a renewed hope. With the help of the guardian of the cemetery, they could solve the mystery and appease the spirits. The woman approached the wall and pointed to the labyrinth. "This is the map," she said. "This is the path to the truth." Sofia, Miguel and Elena observed the labyrinth carefully. They knew that the labyrinth was the key, but they still did not know how to interpret it. "You must follow the path," the woman said. "You must enter the labyrinth." Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, their hearts beating strongly. They were about to embark on a dangerous journey. A journey to the heart of the mystery. The woman gave them a small leather bag. "Here you have what you need," she said. "This bag contains the tools to open the way." Sofia took the bag and opened it. Inside there were 3 objects, a feather, a stone. Chapter 4, The Legacy of the Feathered Serpent. The feather, soft to the touch like a caress, shone under the moonlight. Sofia held it high, feeling an inexplicable connection with the object. It was not a simple feather, it was a portal, a key that opened the doors of time and ancestral knowledge. Miguel, with the stone in his hand, felt a magnetic force that attracted him towards the altar. The stone pulsed, as if it had a life of its own, and emitted a faint hum that resonated within him. It was not a simple stone, it was an amulet, a link with the earth and with the spirits that inhabited it. Elena, with the mirror in her hand, saw her own image reflected, but also something more. Behind her, in the mirror, appeared diffuse figures, shadows that moved between the walls of the basement. It was not a simple mirror, it was a portal, a window to the world of spirits. The woman smiled. "You are ready," she said. "You have found the tools. Now you must learn to use them." Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, their hearts beating strongly. They did not know what awaited them, but they were willing to follow the path that the woman had shown them. "The feather is the voice," the woman said. "With it you will be able to hear the whispers of the wind, the secrets that the earth keeps in its heart." Sofia closed her eyes and concentrated. She heard the wind whispering among the leaves of the trees, the water murmuring in the river, the beating of the city's heart. But she also heard something else. An ancient voice, a voice that spoke in an unknown language. "What does it say?" Miguel asked. I don't know, Sofia replied, but I feel that it is important. The stone is the strength, the woman said. With it you will be able to feel the energy of the earth, the force that the spirits transmit through nature. Miguel took the stone in his hands and felt an electric current that ran through his body. The stone vibrated strongly, as if it were full of life. I feel a great energy, Miguel said. It's as if the earth were speaking to me. The mirror is the vision, the woman said. With it you will be able to see the world of spirits, the ghosts of the past that still wander through this place. Elena approached the mirror and looked at her reflection. She saw her own face, but she also saw something more. Behind her, in the mirror, appeared diffuse figures, shadows that moved between the walls of the basement. Look, Elena exclaimed. There's someone here. Sofia and Miguel approached the mirror and saw the same figures. They were ghosts, spirits that wandered through the basement, seeking revenge. What do they want? Sofia asked. The ghosts did not respond. They simply watched them with their penetrating gazes. We must help them, Elena said. We must find the truth. How? Miguel asked. By following the path, the woman replied. The path that the labyrinth shows you. Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, their hearts beating strongly. They were about to enter the labyrinth, into the heart of the mystery. The woman gave them a small leather bag. Here you have what you need, she said. This bag contains the tools to open the way. Sofia took the bag and opened it. Inside there were 3 objects, a feather, a stone and a mirror. These are the sacred objects, the woman said. The objects that will guide you on your way. Sofia, Miguel and Elena took the sacred objects and prepared to enter the labyrinth. Remember, the woman said, the labyrinth is a dangerous path. But it is also a path of knowledge and wisdom. Sofia, Miguel and Elena nodded. They were ready to face the challenges that awaited them in the labyrinth. They entered the labyrinth, following the path that the lines drawn on the wall showed them. The labyrinth was dark and labyrinthine. The corridors intertwined and branched out, creating a maze of confusion and mystery. Sofia, Miguel and Elena walked cautiously, observing every detail, listening to every sound. Suddenly, they heard a noise. A whisper, a voice that seemed to come from the walls. They stopped dead in their tracks, their hearts beating strongly. The voice became louder, clearer. It was an ancient voice, a voice that spoke in an unknown language. Sofia felt a chill. The voice was familiar to her, as if she had heard it before. Suddenly, she remembered. The voice was the same one she had heard in a dream she had had the night of the accident. In the dream, an indigenous old woman spoke to her in her ancestral language, telling her the story of the cemetery, the story of the injustice. Sofia felt a deep connection with the voice, with the old woman of the dream. She knew that the voice was guiding her, showing her the way. She followed the voice, delving into the labyrinth. Miguel and Elena followed her closely, their hearts in their mouths. The voice led them to a clearing in the center of the labyrinth. There, in the center of the clearing, was a stone. A large stone, a sacred stone. The voice stopped. It had reached its destination. Sofia approached the stone and touched it. She felt an energy that ran through her body, a force that filled her with power. This is the heart of the labyrinth, the woman said. Here you will find the truth. Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, their hearts beating strongly. They were about to discover the truth. The woman approached the stone and touched it. The stone shone with an intense light, revealing a message engraved on its surface. The message was written in the ancestral language of the indigenous people. Sofia, Miguel and Elena could not understand the message. What does it say? Sofia asked. The message reveals the history of the cemetery, the woman said. The story of the injustice. Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, their hearts beating strongly. They were about to discover the truth. The woman gave them an ancient book. Here you will find the translation of the message, she said. This book contains the complete story. Sofia took the book and opened it. She began to read the story aloud. The story told the story of the indigenous people who had been deceived and stripped of their land. It told the story of the revenge of the spirits, the revenge that had caused the accident. Sofia, Miguel and Elena listened to the story carefully, their hearts beating strongly. Upon finishing reading the story, they understood the truth. They understood who was responsible for the injustice. They understood how they could appease the spirits. "We must do justice," Sofia said. "We must repair the damage caused." Miguel and Elena nodded. They agreed with Sofia. "How?" Elena asked. "By returning the land to the indigenous people," Sofia said. "That is the only way to appease the spirits." Miguel and Elena nodded. They agreed with Sofia. "But it will not be easy," Miguel said. "The family that owns the land is very powerful." "It doesn't matter," Sofia said. "We must try. It is the right thing to do." Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, their hearts beating strongly. They were about to embark on a new adventure. An adventure to do justice. The woman gave them a map. "This map will guide you," she said. "This map will lead you to the sacred land." Sofia took the map and opened it. The map showed the way to the land that had been stolen from the indigenous people. "We must follow the map," Sofia said. "We must find the sacred land." Miguel and Elena nodded. They agreed with Sofia. "But it will not be easy," Miguel said. "The land is far away and the road is dangerous." Chapter 5: The Path to the Sacred Land. Sofia, Miguel, and Elena, with the map in hand, ventured into the night. The city slept, unaware of the adventure they were about to embark on. The streets were deserted, illuminated only by the moonlight and the streetlights. The silence was sepulchral, broken only by the echo of their footsteps. The map guided them through dark alleys, through abandoned neighborhoods, through winding roads. Sometimes they had to climb walls, other times they had to cross rivers or traverse forests. The road was long and dangerous, but they did not give up. They knew they were doing the right thing, that they were following the path to justice. After many hours of travel, they arrived at a mountain. The mountain was high and steep, covered in snow and ice. The map indicated that the sacred land was located at the top of the mountain. "How are we going to climb it?" Elena asked, her voice trembling. "It's too high." "Don't worry," Miguel replied. "We have what we need." Miguel took out the sacred stone and held it high. The stone shone with an intense light, illuminating the path to the top of the mountain. "The stone will guide us," Miguel said. "It will show us the way." Sofia and Elena nodded. With the stone in hand, they began to climb the mountain. The path was difficult. They had to climb rocks, cross crevices, avoid avalanches. But they did not give up. They knew they were close to their destination. After many hours of climbing, they arrived at the top of the mountain. There, at the top, was a clearing. In the center of the clearing, there was an altar. An ancient altar, a stone altar. "This is the place," Sofia said. "Here is the sacred land." Miguel and Elena nodded. They had reached their destination. They approached the altar and saw that it was covered with flowers and candles. There was an inscription on the stone, but they could not read it. "What does it say?" Elena asked. "I don't know," Sofia replied. "But I think the inscription has the answer." Sofia took out the sacred feather and held it high. The feather shone with an intense light, revealing the meaning of the inscription. "The inscription says that this is the place where the indigenous people were deceived and stripped of their land," Sofia said. "It says that this is the place where they must do justice." Miguel and Elena nodded. They had found the truth. "What must we do?" Elena asked. "We must return the land to the indigenous people," Sofia replied. "That is the only way to appease the spirits." Miguel and Elena nodded. They agreed with Sofia. "But it will not be easy," Miguel said. "The family that owns the land is very powerful." "It doesn't matter," Sofia said. "We must try. It is the right thing to do." Sofia, Miguel and Elena looked at each other, their hearts beating strongly. They were about to embark on a new adventure. An adventure to do justice. Sofia, Miguel, and Elena decided to return to Mexico City. They needed to find the family that owned the land and convince them to return it to the indigenous people. The return trip was long and difficult. They were tired, hungry, scared. But they did not give up. They knew they were doing the right thing. Upon arriving in Mexico City, they searched for the family that owned the land. They discovered that they were a rich and powerful family, with influences in politics and business. "It will be difficult to convince them," Miguel said. "But we must try." Sofia and Elena nodded. They agreed with Miguel. They met with the family and told them the story of the sacred land, the story of the injustice. They explained that the only way to appease the spirits was to return the land to the indigenous people. The family refused. They said that the land was theirs, that they had bought it legally, that they had no obligation to return it. Sofia, Miguel, and Elena felt frustrated. They did not know what to do. "We cannot give up," Sofia said. "We must find a way to convince them." Miguel and Elena nodded. They agreed with Sofia. They decided to seek help. They contacted indigenous organizations, lawyers, journalists. They told them the story of the sacred land, the story of the injustice. Many people were moved by the story and decided to help them. Marches were organized, protests were held, the story was spread in the media. The pressure on the family increased. People demanded that they return the land to the indigenous people. Finally, the family gave in. They agreed to return the land to the indigenous people. Sofia, Miguel, and Elena felt a great joy. They had managed to do justice. A ceremony was organized to return the land to the indigenous people. The ceremony was emotional, full of joy and hope. The indigenous people recovered their sacred land. The spirits were appeased. Sofia, Miguel, and Elena felt proud of what they had achieved. They had done justice. After the ceremony, Sofia, Miguel, and Elena returned to their work. They had learned a lot during their adventure. They had learned about the history of their country, about injustice, about the importance of the struggle for justice. They had learned about the strength of unity, about the power of solidarity. They had learned about the importance of following the right path, the path of truth. Sofia, Miguel, and Elena became defenders of the rights of indigenous people. They used their voice, their talent, their work to denounce injustice, to promote equality, to build a better world. Their adventure became a legend that inspired many people to fight for justice. And so the story of Sofia, Miguel, and Elena became an example that justice always prevails, that truth always comes to light. Chapter 6: The Echo of the Past. The morning sun began to dawn over Mexico City as Sofia, Miguel, and Elena prepared for another day of work. The adventure in the sacred land was behind them, but the lessons learned continued to resonate in their hearts. "Good morning, team," exclaimed Sofia with a radiant smile. "Ready for another day of art?" "Always," replied Miguel with a nod. "But today we will work more carefully than ever." "Safety is our priority," added Elena, with a sparkle in her eyes. "After everything we've been through, we've learned to value life." As they worked, the three talked about the adventure in the sacred land. They shared their impressions, their emotions, their learnings. "It was amazing how we managed to do justice," said Sofia. "Returning the land to the indigenous people was the right thing to do." "They looked so happy," added Elena. "Seeing their joy was the best reward." "But we can't stop here," said Miguel. "There is still much to do. We need to continue fighting for justice, for equality." Sofia and Elena nodded. The adventure in the sacred land had awakened in them a new awareness, a new passion for justice. "We will use our voice," said Sofia. "We will use our art to denounce injustice, to promote equality. We will join other people who fight for the same cause," added Elena. "Together we are stronger. And we will continue working with love and dedication," said Miguel. "After all, painting is our way of expressing beauty, hope, joy." And so Sofia, Miguel, and Elena continued working, side by side as always. But now, their hearts were filled with a new purpose. At the end of the day, as they said goodbye, they made a promise. They promised that they would never forget the adventure in the sacred land, that they would continue fighting for justice, that they would use their voices to build a better world. Several months passed. Sofia, Miguel, and Elena had become references in their community. They were known for their art, for their dedication, for their fight for justice. Sofia began painting murals on public buildings, portraying the history of the indigenous people, denouncing injustice, celebrating culture and diversity. Miguel began teaching painting classes for underprivileged children, teaching them to express their feelings, their dreams, their hopes through art. Elena joined a non-governmental organization that defended the rights of indigenous people, working as a volunteer, helping to spread the cause, to organize events, to raise funds. The three friends had become examples of committed citizens, of people who used their talents to make a difference in the world. One day, Sofia received a special invitation. She had been invited to participate in an international art congress, where she would have the opportunity to present her murals, to talk about her work, to share her experience in the fight for justice. Sofia was thrilled with the invitation. She knew it was a unique opportunity to take her message to the world, to inspire others to make a difference. "I'm going to go," said Sofia, with a sparkle in her eyes. "I'm going to show the world the strength of our art, the strength of our voice." Miguel and Elena were happy with the news. They knew that Sofia was the right person to represent their community, to carry forward the fight for justice. "We are proud of you, Sofia," said Miguel. "You are an incredible artist, an inspiring person. You're going to shine," said Elena. "Your message is going to touch the hearts of many people." Sofia smiled. She knew she could count on the support of her friends, with the support of all those who believed in the strength of art, in the strength of justice. The day of the Congress arrived. Sofia was nervous, but confident. She knew she had an important message to convey. She went on stage, with a smile on her face. She presented her murals, talked about her work, shared her experience in the fight for justice. Her voice resonated in the room, moving everyone present. Her art touched people's hearts, awakening in them the will to make a difference. At the end of the presentation, Sofia was applauded standing. She received many compliments, many hugs, many thanks. "You are an incredible artist," they told her. "Your message is powerful, inspiring. You have shown us that art can transform the world," others told her. "You have shown us that justice is possible." Sofia felt happy with the recognition. She knew that her work was making a difference. As she came down from the stage, she was surprised by a person she had not seen for many years. It was the indigenous woman, the guardian of the cemetery. Sofia was moved to see the woman. She ran to hug her, with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," said Sofia. "Thank you for guiding me, for showing me the way." "You have followed your heart," replied the woman. "You have done what was right. And you helped me find the truth," said Sofia. "You helped me to do justice." The woman smiled. "The truth always prevails," she said. "Justice always triumphs." Sofia and the woman hugged again. They knew that they were united by a strong bond, a bond of friendship, a bond of justice. After the Congress, Sofia returned to Mexico City. She felt happy, fulfilled, inspired. She knew that her journey was just beginning. She had many dreams, many projects, many causes to defend. She continued painting murals, teaching children, working with the NGO. Her life had become a mission of love, a mission of justice. Miguel and Elena continued by her side, supporting her in everything she did. They were inseparable friends, fellow fighters, fellow life partners. Together, they became symbols of hope, examples that art can transform the world, that justice is possible, that love always wins. And so, the story of Sofia, Miguel, and Elena spread throughout the world, inspiring thousands of people to make a difference, to fight for a better future, to believe in the strength of art, in the strength of justice, in the strength of love. Chapter 7: The Revelation. The atmosphere in Sofia's apartment was tense, almost palpable. The canvas with the labyrinth lay stretched out on the table. The intricate lines seemed to mock their confusion. Miguel paced back and forth, frustration reflected on his face. Elena, sitting on the sofa, mentally reviewed the events of the last few days, looking for any clue, any connection they might have missed. "I don't understand," Miguel murmured, running his hands through his hair. "We've followed the map, we've found the sacred land, we've done justice. Why are we still without answers?" "I think we're focusing on the wrong place," said Elena, her gaze fixed on the canvas. "Maybe the key isn't in the land, but in the labyrinth." Sofia approached the table and observed the labyrinth carefully. The lines snaked, crossed, branched out, forming a complex and enigmatic drawing. "Elena is right," said Sofia. "The labyrinth is the key. But how can we decipher it?" "Maybe the answer is in the story," Miguel suggested. "The story we found in the old book." Sofia took the book and opened it to the page where the story of the indigenous people and the injustice they had suffered was written. "The story talks about a treasure," Sofia read. "A treasure that was hidden by the indigenous people to protect it from the colonizers. It is said that the treasure is hidden in a secret place, a place that can only be found by following the labyrinth." "The labyrinth?" Elena exclaimed. "The labyrinth is the treasure map." Sofia nodded. "It makes sense. The treasure could be the key to solving the mystery. But how are we going to find the treasure? Miguel asked. The labyrinth is very complex. We could get lost. We have to follow the lines, said Elena. The lines of the labyrinth will guide us. Sofia took the canvas and spread it out on the table. Then, she took a marker and began to draw a line on the labyrinth, following the indications of the old book. The story says that the treasure is hidden in the heart of the labyrinth, Sofia read. In the place where the sun sets. The sun sets, Elena repeated thoughtfully. The west. Sofia nodded. The west. We have to follow the lines of the labyrinth to the west. They began to follow the lines drawn on the canvas, hoping to find the treasure. The road was long and difficult, full of obstacles and dangers. But they did not give up. They knew they were close to the truth. After many hours of searching, they arrived at a clearing in the forest. In the center of the clearing, there was a stone. A large stone, a sacred stone. This is the place, said Sofia. Here is the treasure. Miguel and Elena approached the stone and examined it carefully. I don't see anything, Miguel said. Just a stone. Look closer, said Elena. Maybe there's something hidden. Sofia knelt in front of the stone and touched it. She felt an energy that ran through her body, a force that filled her with power. It's here, said Sofia. The treasure is here. With the help of Miguel and Elena, they moved the stone and discovered a hole in the ground. Inside the hole, there was a chest. An old chest, a chest full of treasures. We found it, Elena exclaimed. We have found the treasure. Sofia opened the chest and found that it was full of jewels, gold, silver, and other valuable objects. This treasure belongs to the indigenous people, said Sofia. We must return it to them. Miguel and Elena nodded. They agreed with Sofia. But how are we going to find the indigenous people? Miguel asked. They will find us, said Sofia. The news of the treasure will spread quickly. The indigenous people will know that we have found their treasure. And so it was. The next day, the indigenous people arrived at the clearing and claimed their treasure. They were happy, grateful, excited. Thank you, said the indigenous people. Thank you for returning our treasure to us. It's the right thing to do, said Sofia. This treasure belongs to you. The indigenous people took the treasure and carried it back to their community. Sofia, Miguel and Elena felt proud of what they had achieved. They had done justice. After the ceremony, the indigenous people invited Sofia, Miguel and Elena to join their community. They wanted to thank them for their help, for their courage, for their honesty. Sofia, Miguel and Elena accepted the invitation and joined the indigenous community. There they learned about the culture, the traditions, the customs of the indigenous people. They learned about the importance of the land, the importance of justice, the importance of community. Sofia, Miguel and Elena felt happy to be part of the indigenous community. They felt accepted, loved, respected. After a while, they decided to return to Mexico City. They had to go back to their work, to their lives. But the experience in the indigenous community had changed them. They had learned a lot, they had grown as people, they had discovered their true vocation. Sofia, Miguel and Elena returned to Mexico City with a new purpose. They wanted to use their talents, their knowledge, their experience to help others, to make the world a better place. Sofia continued painting murals, teaching children, working with the NGO. Miguel continued teaching painting classes, helping to build houses for the needy, working as a volunteer in hospitals. Elena continued working with the NGO, defending the rights of indigenous people, fighting for justice. The three friends became leaders in their community, examples of people who made a difference. Their story spread throughout the country, inspiring thousands of people to follow their example. And so the story of Sofia, Miguel and Elena became a legend that showed that justice always triumphs, that truth always comes to light, that love always wins. Chapter 8, The Mosaic of Hope. Time, like sand between fingers, slipped away, taking with it the scars of struggle and perseverance. Sofia, Miguel and Elena, now more experienced and wise, continued their journey in pursuit of justice and equality. A sunny day in Mexico City. Sofia is in her workshop, surrounded by canvases and brushes, working on a new mural that portrays the history of the indigenous community. Miguel is in a school, teaching children to paint and express their feelings through art. Elena is in a meeting with other members of the NGO, planning new actions in defense of the rights of indigenous people. Sofia, with a smile on her face, watches the children paint enthusiastically. She remembers her own childhood when she discovered her passion for art and the power it had to transform the world. Painting is a powerful tool, Sofia thinks. With it, we can give a voice to those who don't have one, we can denounce injustice, we can celebrate beauty and diversity. Miguel, meanwhile, meets with other members of the NGO to discuss the next actions. We need to continue fighting for the demarcation of indigenous lands, says Elena. It is a fundamental right that is being denied to them. And we also need to ensure that they have access to health, education and culture, adds another member of the NGO. It is a matter of human dignity. Together, they make plans for the coming weeks, organizing events, spreading the cause, seeking support from other organizations and society in general. Several years pass. Sofia becomes a recognized artist, with her murals adorning buildings and public spaces throughout the city. Her works are full of meaning, portraying the history, culture, and struggle of indigenous people and other marginalized groups. Miguel stands out as a dedicated educator, inspiring children and young people to develop their artistic talents and become conscious and committed citizens. Elena is consolidated as a leader in the struggle for the rights of indigenous people, being recognized for her courage, her determination, and her capacity for mobilization. The three friends continue working together, each in their area, but always connected by their passion for justice and their desire to build a better world. One day, they meet to celebrate another year of work and achievements. "Look at how many things we have done," exclaims Sofia, with a smile of satisfaction. "Our murals are everywhere, the children are learning to paint, our NGO is getting stronger and stronger. And the indigenous people are regaining their lands, one step at a time," completes Elena. "There is still much to do, but we are on the right track. And the most important thing is that we are still together," says Miguel. "Our friendship is the foundation of everything." They toast with their glasses of wine, celebrating life, friendship, justice. At that moment, they realize that the adventure in the sacred land was not just an isolated episode in their lives, but a milestone that defined their paths and united them forever. The canvas with the labyrinth, which was once an enigma, is now revealed as a mosaic of hope, a symbol of the strength of unity, perseverance, and belief in a better future. The labyrinth, which once scared them, now becomes a guide, showing that the path to justice is not always easy, but it is worth traveling. They remember the indigenous woman, the guardian of the cemetery, who helped them unravel the secrets of the past and find the path to the truth. "She taught us that truth always prevails," says Sofia, "and that justice always triumphs. And that love is the force that moves us," completes Miguel. "And that unity makes strength," concludes Elena. They embrace, moved, feeling the strength of the friendship that unites them. At that moment, they make a new promise. They promise that they will never forget the lessons learned, that they will continue fighting for justice, that they will use their voices to build a more just, equitable, and fraternal world. They know that the journey is long and that the challenges are many, but they are not intimidated. With the strength of unity, the light of hope, and the certainty that they are doing what is right, they move forward, building a better future for themselves and for future generations. And so, the story of Sofia, Miguel, and Elena becomes an example that art can transform the world, that justice is possible, and that love always wins. The end.